अरे मैं को जन्नत समझते थे। लोग में से थी को जन्नत है, लेकिन मेरे लिए ये कैद खाना था। हर दीवार पर को दोपहर को महल में दाखिल होते हुए टैक्स और वफादारी की बात करता है। दोपहर को ब्रिटिश ऑफिसर महल में दाखिल होता है। यह मिलना बराबरी का नहीं मजबूरी का है। टैक्स और वफादारी की बात करता है। दोपहर को ब्रिटिश ऑफिसर महल में दाखिल होता है। राजा उठकर खड़ा होता है। यह मिलना बराबरी का नहीं मजबूरी का है। ऑफिसर टैक्स और वफादारी की बात करता है।
बस नहीं, सिर्फ खामोशी का खत्मा है। विपचाच बलिलोपा Killed. For the first time, perceive a crime, not as a
दोपहर को ब्रिटिश ऑफिसर महल में दाखिल होता है। राजा उठकर खड़ा होता है। यह मिलना बराबरी का नहीं मजबूरी का है। ऑफिसर टैक्स और वफादारी की बात करता है।
बस नहीं, सिर्फ खामोशी का खत्मा है। विपचाच बलिलोपा
It was a cold morning in 1905. The sun was rising. But inside the palace there was a deep, heavy silence. The king sat on his throne. A golden crown shone on his head. Yet his eyes carried exhaustion and an invisible burden. Outside, the sound of conch shells and drums filled the air. But the king knew this day was not only about rituals, it was a day of decisions. People believed the palace was a paradise, but for the king it was a prison. Portraits of his ancestors covered the walls, as if they were silently questioning him. The king asked himself, am I truly a ruler, or just a symbol? By noon, a British officer entered the palace. There was a smile on his face, but command in his eyes. The king stood up at once. This meeting was not between equals. It was born of helplessness. They spoke of taxes and loyalty. The king only nodded. No words left his lips, only silence. He knew well. Refusal meant the end of his crown. To save the palace, placing a burden on his people, had become his fate. Night fell, and the king sat alone in his chamber. Standing before the mirror, he looked at his own face. He removed the crown and placed it on the table. In that moment, for the first time, he did not feel like a king, only a man. From behind a curtain, the queen watched him. She had no permission to speak, no right to advise. She only knew one thing. The king was breaking a little more every day. Outside the palace, people gathered. The poor, farmers, laborers, all crushed by taxes. To them, the king had become a symbol of cruelty, while the true story remained unknown. The king looked down from the balcony. His heart split into two parts, one with the crown, one with the people. But every time, the decision was made in favor of the crown. Inside a locked chamber of the palace, British records were kept. They listed which kings were loyal and which were dangerous. When the king saw his own name on that list, he understood. He was not free. Laughter had been taken away from the prince and the princess. They were taught that emotions were a weakness. The king watched in silence, because he himself had been raised the same way. The king made decisions that caused pain to his people. After each decision, his sleep grew shorter. Appearing cruel had become his role. One night the king lifted his ancestor's crown in his hands and silently asked, am I worthy of this? The answer was only silence. The British officer returned once again. This time the smile was weaker and the command stronger. The king realized the path had become even narrower. The queen finally spoke in a soft voice. People are remembered more than crowns. The king said nothing, but those words settled deep within his heart. At last the king made a decision that the British did not approve of. He knew the consequences could be dangerous. Yet for the first time, his heart felt light, because this time, the decision was not made for the crown, but for his conscience.
दोपहर को ब्रिटिश ऑफिसर महल में दाखिल होता है। राजा उठकर खड़ा होता है। यह मिलना बराबरी का नहीं मजबूरी का है। ऑफिसर टैक्स और वफादारी की बात करता है।
बस नहीं, से सिर्फ खामोशी का खत्म है विपचाच बल्लभ था